What's up, the internet? It's Kyle. How's it going? Welcome into the EXP Expo 2022, the one with all the twos. I really am happy with that name. I'm glad I came up with it. Anyhow, this is the 8th part. We have our 8th guest tonight here on the EXP Expo 2022. And our next guest, where did he go? Hold on. He was just here. Anyhow, I'll have him talk about it. But I had, for the longest time, if you watch shows that I was on, one of his characters was right here. And that was Milo the Mummy, who has got to be laying here, but I will find him eventually. But I should probably bring him on. The creator of Scout on Adventure. Wrapped Up. I can't believe I blanked on Wrapped Up. It's gonna be a whole thing. But he's the artist on Cthulhu Jr., which we talked about with Dirk, and a new book coming out from Oni Press called Agents of Slam. Ladies and gentlemen, Scoot McMahon.
Hey everyone. Thanks for having me on. Nice to see you again, Kyle.
I'm all thrown off.
Yeah.
By the fact that my Milo has moved.
That's what happens, you know. The mummy won't stay in one spot. He probably smelled pizza and he ran away.
Clearly.
Or his friend Wizard made him disappear.
That's true.
And luckily, I have the comic right here for those of you who are looking for what Milo may look like. He's right there. It's Milo.
See, in my search, I managed to unplug my camera.
This is stepsister, Jill. This is from co-created with Dave Scheid, and it's published by Lion Forge, and I believe now Oni. So, Wrapped Up. This is volume 2. There's 2 volumes. Hopefully more, but.
So, in trying to find him, I unplugged my camera.
Oh,
sweet. So now I'm just weird blank screen, weird yellow screen.
Yeah, yellow. That's cool. Yellow is also the background color of the Cthulhu Jr. Halloween Comics Fest issue.
See, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you hype your own books, right? Just whatever you could do to transition to them.
Got them ready, yeah. And this is it's called Spot on Adventure, not Scout on Adventure. You said Scout on Adventure.
Why would I say that?
I don't know. You might have been thinking of Scout Comics, perhaps.
No, that isn't it.
Sammy.
You know what I think it was? I think it was a confabulation of Spot and Scoot.
Yeah.
And I just meshed everything together. It's been a long week.
So how you been, Kyle?
Oh, it's been a long week, but it's been good. So
I was telling you off the air that my son's been asking about you because Kyle used to run a comic shop here near me in Rossford, Ohio, and my son Oliver and I would go in there often. And he asks once in a while, where's Kyle's shop or his workshop, he calls it. Is Kyle at his workshop today?
Yeah. I miss having that shop too. Like, that was a great little shop. It was a great location.
Yeah. It was a bad timing though. The pandemic hit right after that. The school was under construction, so there's no traffic during the day.
World's most awful timing. Like, if you were gonna try and figure out when to make a real estate deal, right before a global pandemic in a construction zone, not the smartest idea. So, it was dumb, but we tried real hard, and hopefully, maybe someday, we'll have another workshop for Oliver to come hang out at.
Yeah.
So. Let me ask this. We've talked many times about how you got into comics and your art style and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we've ever really talked about kind of the other parts of this process that have been a part of your career. So you've had your art featured a bunch of different places. Like I was going through my list. It's like you've worked with Oh Yeah Comics. You're wearing the shirt. That we've talked about how you got hooked up with Art and Franco, but
Yeah.
like you have a strip in Previews magazine.
Oh, right. Yeah.
How did that happen?
Here it is.
Right.
So, because I did a lot of, so I do primarily like, I try to do not too many comic shows. I'd rather do like smaller like signings at comic shops or libraries or small bookstores. But I do like C2E2, New York Comic Con, once in a while San Diego Comic Con, Free Comic Book Day, usually in Skokie, where Oh Yeah Comics is, and sometimes at Pack Rat Comics with Dirk in Columbus. But when you do only a few shows like that, the bigger ones, like all the creators are at the bigger ones, so you start to network. And I got to meet Chris Giarusso, the creator of G-Man, the G-Man All Ages books. He's also a collaborator with Art and Franco on the book Encounter, and Mini Marvels is what he's probably most known for. But Giarusso was approached by Previews to draw this comic strip inside the Previews magazine, which eventually was turned into this little comic book. And he couldn't do it, but he knew me and he recommended me. So I got to talking um, with the guys at Previews, and then I went out to San Diego Comic Con and I met them, and they brought me, to the Previews team and kind of like interviewed me, I guess. And then yeah, the rest was history. So it was kind of like being at the right place at the right time, but also like networking with fellow, that's kind of like the comic community is kind of like that, right? We all kind of look out for each other, even though in a way we're kind of competing against each other
Mm-hmm.
for to work these different things, but really it's all friendly. Like if I can't do something, I always recommend someone else. I never say no. I just say, I don't have time to do that, but this other guy over here, Art Baltazar, might want to check him out if you never heard of him, or Franco, or Dave Scheid, or Dirk, or whoever. We all kind of look out for each other. So that's, going to these shows, especially these bigger ones, and meeting a lot of creators that have a lot of connections. That's how you kind of start to network too, and get these other gigs.
And so that was my question. That was going to be my next question. Is so much of what your work has done has been networking, right? I
Hmm.
mean, you got hooked up with Art and Franco through just kind of random networking.
Yeah.
You got the Previews world through just kind of random networking.
Hmm.
You met Dave Scheid, who's your frequent collaborator,
Yeah.
just kind of randomly at an All Yeah Comics thing.
Yeah, and Oh Yeah Comics, they in Skokie, they have an Oh Yeah Comics store. They also have one in Muncie and one in New York. But we were at the Skokie one. They were having a party like at around the time of C2E2, and Art and Franco always set up like a big drawing board. Mark Hammond at the time was running the store, and they set up the big drawing board, and we can just artists can come up there and draw. And I started drawing people at the party, and I saw Dave over there with his big beard, and Art introduced me to him as Sasquatch. He said, "This is my friend Sasquatch." He didn't even tell me his name because Dave has a long beard and long hair, and so everyone just called him Squatchy. And I drew a picture of him as a Sasquatch with these stink lines coming off him, and he loved it. And then we just started talking back and forth, and we instantly connected and had a lot of the same um, sense of humor. And Dave's a writer; he doesn't draw, but he writes, primarily, kids stories and all ages stories. But yeah, we just met at an All Yeah Comics party, after party type thing, and yeah, that's how that happened.
So if you could give people out there kind of a tip
Hmm.
on networking,
Yeah.
because like I said, I mean, it's something that has been a big part of this. What would you say? What would you tell people?
Well, it's tough right now with the pandemic, but I always tell younger artists, you don't have to go to these huge conventions. I do because partially because I have a day job, so I can afford to go to the big ones. Because you're gonna lose money when you're starting out going to these big shows. You're going there with the purpose to network, to meet people and make connections, and that's what you have to have. in your head. But to start off, I would say go to any convention, the smaller ones, the Fantasticon in Toledo, which is coming up in March. Go to these shows, go to library shows when there's going to be a creator there, or comic shop when there's going to be a creator, and just start networking that way. But during this pandemic, the beauty of social media, as bad as it can be sometimes, I feel like for artists and creators, you can really use it to your advantage, but you have to be, sincere on there, and post your stuff. And if you like something, like it, and leave a comment, tell someone you like it. That means a lot, to the artist and the creator, but it also makes, it's a way for you to connect. And maybe that a lot of times when people like my art and I don't know who they are, I'll look at their profile then. And if they're a fellow artist or whatever, I usually follow them back. So
That's a cool way to look at it. It's like, hey, show up and see who's around, and then be cool.
yeah, and interact in a like a positive, in a good way. If you like something, be like, hey, this is cool. I'm into, wrestling too, blah, blah, blah. And then, chances are I'll follow you back, or I'll check out your work.
I'm just going to leave this one up here and let you.
Yeah. So that's Mike Campobasso. So I'm also a frequent guest on the Oh Yeah podcast, and so is Mike. And Mike's nickname is Skoke because he goes to the Skokie Oh Yeah comic store. And yes, I met Jamie Farr when I was about 15 years old at the Jamie Farr Kroger Classic, formerly Kroger Classic in Sylvania. And I was eating a hot dog, and he asked me if that hot dog was good, young man. And I said, yes, it is. And that was when I met Jamie Farr.
Have we ever talked about my work with Jamie Farr?
No, this could be good.
Jamie Farr had a massive Golden Age comic book collection.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll let you continue, but there's a story. We know that.
When he moved out to LA,
mm-hmm.
he gave his comic book collection to his brother, who gave it to a cousin, and it all gets kind of blurry right in there when it left his hands. And there has been, if you go back far enough, they know who they sold it to, who's still in the comic book business in the area. So I have been, for the last 3.5 years, tracking down Jamie Farr's collection. And so far I found 2 books that we could track to Jamie Farr, or at least that he had a copy of that book, whether it's his actual book or not.
We got to have you. So Kyle, we got to have you come on the Oh Yeah podcast and tell that same story, only because we collectively, Franco, myself, and John Suntress, we paid for a Jamie Farr cameo. Through Cameo, we paid Jamie Farr to give a shout out to Oh Yeah Comics. And he gave us the longest cameo because he just starts rambling about his comic book collection and telling us about his favorite characters. And it's great. I'll have to share the video with you, but you have to come on the podcast and tell that story, because the Oh Yeah listeners know about this cameo. And we felt like we were the ones that discovered that Jamie Farr was this big comic book aficionado, but apparently you already knew that. So that's kind of cool.
I got put onto it through I don't know if it was Wade Kapsakevich, the mayor of Toledo, or if it was somebody in his staff. I don't remember the meeting clearly. Yeah. But we were talking about kind of the comic book scene in Toledo, and was when Fantasticon was kind of getting going. Maybe second or third year of Fantasticon. It was the year I had the biggest booth at the show. I don't remember. Okay. But we had this big meeting about stuff, and he goes, "You really need to talk to Jamie Farr." And I'm going, "I don't know if you understand what you just said to me."
Yeah.
But no, that was Toledo famous Jamie Farr. And then what else? Here's another funny Toledo nerd fact, and then we're going to get back to actual work here.
I love Toledo nerd facts.
Well, Howard Wolowitz from The Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
Played by Simon Helberg. His grandfather, Sandy Helberg, developed downtown Toledo, was like one of the real estate developers that developed downtown Toledo in the late 1920s and 30s.
Oh, okay.
So the building where Leo's bookstore was. Do you remember? Did you ever go to Leo's to buy comic books?
No, I remember it though, but I never went there.
It was one of his buildings.
Sweet.
So one of the first buildings where I ever got comics was only there because of the guy from The Big Bang Theory's grandfather.
That's good trivia.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about
when you said there was going to be another Toledo story. I thought for sure it was going to have something to do with Tony Pacos or the Mud Hens. The trifecta is Jamie Farr, Tony Pacos, and the Mud Hens. Like one of those.
But those three are all known because of Jamie Farr.
Oh, I know.
No, you know, Danny Thomas, the person who's responsible for St. Jude Children's Hospital, is from here.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, there's all kinds of other Toledo trivia we can get into later. Somebody messaged me and asked me about Two Stickney, the battle for Toledo. I got all kinds, but that we should do a comic book about Two Stickney. Okay, anyway,
yeah,
let's talk about Cthulhu Jr.
Okay,
because as I talked to Dirk about it the other day, it has a certain Midwestern feel, and I think we can cop to there are locations in it that are from our neighborhood, or that are inspired by our neighborhood,
and that's the beauty. So Dirk and I kind of co-created the story together. He told the story on your show, but in his car we were driving to Cincinnati Comic Expo, and we came up with the whole story. But we never really set it in like the suburbs, but we never really gave it a location until I started drawing it. And I have Junior and Penny going to Eagle Point School, which is a school here in Rossford. And then other background elements are things from Rossford. So I live in Rossford, Ohio. So I'm just kind of putting them in Rossford, Ohio. We never say exactly where they're from. We don't label the city. But if I had to guess, I would say they're from Rossford, Ohio, which is a suburb of Toledo and a former home of Nexus Comics.
Well, right. It's the neighborhood where you and I live. Like, I drive past these locations every day on my way to work. Like, so why did you decide to set it where you like, why would you pick Rossford? Like, what was your thinking?
Well, I think because when we were coming up with the story, Dirk said, you know, he wanted this guy in the suburbs, and, you know, I draw really cartoony, and I like to invent things and create things, but also I like to have a point of reference, or I like to establish. So they're not exactly in Rossford, but there's a lot of things like certain light posts and different things that, you know, I'll pull in that are familiar. And I think when you're reading it, like, you got that vibe. You don't have to be from here to kind of, when you start pulling from reality like that, even the way the houses and the yards are designed in the story, it kind of grounds it a little bit more, even though it is cartoony. And I realized when I was working on it, like, I've worked on a lot of comics, and I reference places nearby a lot, you know, buildings or whatnot, but I've never really put anything like in the town I grew up in. So I grew up in Rossford, and now I'm older. I bought a house here with my wife, Kendra, and we're raising our family here. So it was kind of like, I thought, if we're doing this book in a suburb and we don't specifically call out where it's at, I'm just going to draw it as Rossford, and people that are from here or from Northwest Ohio may recognize it. So that was kind of the thinking behind that. And, you know, I don't want to spoil too much of the book, but I think there's a lot in this first issue where you learn about the character of Dastardly Dirk and how he has a family, and he's kind of doing, you know, trying to be this evil magician, but, you know, he's got roots here, and we'll see where the story goes from there.
Right. Well, and I think that's an interesting thing. You watch shows like AP Bio on NBC, like the NBC show AP Bio, which was set here, or I think Melissa and Joey was set here. Like, there've been some weird shows set in this area.
Yeah.
But I think Taco Bell does it best in that this area is a really good cross section of the United States.
Yeah.
It's why they test food here.
So Dave Scheid, who's my collaborator on Wrapped Up and Agents of Slam, which is coming out later, he is from Chicago, and he's jealous because Toledo is a Taco Bell test market, because I'll tell him like when we have different things, and he's always like asking me if I can go get it and test it out for him and stuff. So that's kind of funny that you brought that up.
Right. The whole world was like, if you guys had these Doritos Locos Tacos, and I'm like, dude, we've moved on to like 3 other things since then. So I think that's true, but I think that's a good way. It's a good idea. If Dirk is scripting this thing out and says, I want this in the suburbs, there's no place more suburban than here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Northwest Ohio.
It's like Ferris Bueller, like feels like like it takes place here. Dirk, Dirk's in the comments, wait till you see the trick or treat scene. If they go to a Taco Bell and get like Doritos Locos Tacos or something, because that was what was happening when you wrote this book, I will lose my damn mind.
I do have a snippet of the trick or treat scene up on my monitor, but I don't know if I should show it to you or not.
I don't know. That was a cool thing, and we could talk about that. When I had my shop in Rossford, and this book was set in Rossford, basically, I gave away the Halloween comic book version of this book for trick or treat one year.
Oh yeah, yep.
We're getting a do it in the chat.
Show the trick or treat scene.
Yeah.
Hold on. It won't be in color because I don't have the color versions of these things, but this will be an exclusive sneak peek. The book is currently being colored.
Sean is coloring it, right?
Yeah, Sean Burris is coloring it. It looks great, but I don't have. I don't really want to show those yet because it's kind of like he sent me in progress shots, but well,
I want to give him a shout out. Like he's doing a great job on this book. From the bits that I've seen in color.
Cool. Yeah, he's great. He's awesome. And I know a small world. I know Sean from, again, before I worked on this book, I knew Sean from my day job. I had met him because he came in as a consultant on completely unrelated non-comic book stuff. So it's kind of funny that we met back up on this book.
That is funny.
You want me to share my screen?
Yeah, share it and I'll pop it up.
Okay. Should be. Okay. So this is the, look at this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Look at his arms.
Yeah. Looks very familiar.
Look at, there's a kid dressed up like Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these, look at, she looks familiar too.
Hey, I know that person.
Yeah, so this is but it kind of has that vibe, like Rossford is notorious for these annoying telephone poles. If you've ever tried to play frisbee or football, I'm sure Toledo's the same way. They're all over in these neighborhoods. And here's one of the light posts I was talking about that I kind of referenced from an area close to me. I'm not going to give away my exact street, people, but
so that light post was across the street from my shop. I stared at it every day.
And here's a witch. You might see a lot of witches and stuff flying around in Rossford if you've ever been here. It's kind of a magical place.
Well, I've been on the
Here's
internet.
a character that looks like Darth Vader, but I assure you it is not. Same with this guy. It's not Casey Jones. It's not Charlie Brown. So don't sue me. This is not Kyle.
Legally not me. Right.
Yeah. So this is look at this guy. See, I haven't even looked at this in so long. I forgot I put all these little Easter eggs in there.
There's Milo.
Yeah. And Milo the mummy down here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is an exclusive sneak peek of the Halloween trick-or-treat scene from Chapter 5 of Cthulhu Jr.
That's
now before anyone I spoil it anymore.
Yeah, you're just gonna close it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Look at there's that. I have it focused on that right there.
Well, let's talk about Agents of Slam since you keep trying to put the images up on screen.
I'm trying to put them all up here, but hold on. There we go. That way you can see them all. So Agents of Slam is my next book that's coming out April 20th through Oni. I worked on it with Dave Scheid, and then I asked our friend Heidi Black to color it. So Heidi's doing a great job with the colors there. This is actually an alternate cover. So I thought I was grabbing the cover of the book, which is behind me on a banner, but this is the alternate cover. So you get to see some of the characters here, and then this is WWE champion Becky Lynch, and Becky was nice enough to get a copy of Slam and read it and give a great review. So we posted that. If you follow us on our Twitters, mine is at Scoot Comics. You can go through my history and you'll see where we gave Becky a shout out and we posted her, quote of approval, her pull quote that she gave us. So she was really nice and she loved it. So I drew this version of her if she appeared in Agents of Slam, and she loved this as well. So that was pretty cool. And again, we met Becky through Twitter. Dave put out a call like, hey, we're looking for wrestlers to give us some poll quotes. Be cool if we could get Becky Lynch. And someone that Dave knew Becky, and they sent her the message, and she DM'd Dave, and the rest is history. So
that's very funny. Like,
the
that's
magic
super
of
cool.
Twitter.
Like,
yeah,
right. It's that idea of if you just put yourself out there, right?
Yep.
My line is always put yourself in a position to have an adventure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
This comic looks dope. Is it a series or a trade?
This is a trade. So it's about 160 pages, I think. It's volume 1. I don't want to reveal too much about it, but so the first thing I'll say about it, though, without spoiling anything, it's basically if Vince McMahon, the head of the WWE, became president of the United States, because we have a character in here who's the promoter of the Slam Wrestling. He runs for president. He's right here. President Patrick Johnson. He's standing back there in the suit. Instead of like secret agents, he pulls in these wrestlers, and wrestlers have like finishing moves, which are almost like superpowers. So these wrestlers go on these missions to, protect the earth from aliens. You got this tentacle coming over there, monsters, bad guys, all kinds of weird stuff. And they all have special abilities. Like there's a luchador. His name's Volt. He wears a jetpack. There's Bruno Bravado. He's kind of like the leader and the coolest guy on the team. That's Katie Jones. The story's about her. She knows everything there is to know about pro wrestling, and she is lucky enough to go on an adventure with them at the beginning of the book. This is the Red Reaper. This is Marvelous Monica. Favorite. And this is Tex. And he's got this, he's the hefty lefty. He's got this metal, almost like an infinity gauntlet on his left hand that he can knock guys out with. But that's the essence of the Agents of Slam. And if you follow me or Dave or Heidi on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, we're going to be posting, as we lead up to that April 20th, we're going to be posting some, and follow Oni as well, because we're all going to be posting some sneak peeks and some different cool things about the characters, so you can help you get pumped for the book.
I think it's at the Framer. I have a Red Reaper piece that you drew me.
Yeah.
And I literally think it was we were sitting having a cheeseburger or whatever, and you're just drawing.
Yeah.
And I have you drew that one. He's like, I can't tell you anything about it, but here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Slam is another book similar to Cthulhu Jr., where I started working on Slam. Dave and I pitched it when we were working on Wrapped Up. So in like 2017, and it was with Lion Forge for a while. And it was kind of a slow going process. And then right when we started getting into it, some other projects came up, and then Dave and I kind of, had some second thoughts about it, but we got back into it. And then the pandemic hit, which actually turned out to be a good thing, because it gave us more time to like really take time with the characters and the artwork and everything like that. So it was supposed to come out as well as Cthulhu Jr. in 2020, but now it looks like both books, definitely Slam, will be out in 2022. So this April 20th in comic shops. You can get it through Simon & Schuster, Barnes & Noble, all the places that sell books will have Agents of Slam, hopefully.
No, absolutely. So with Agents of Slam, when you're writing, when you're working on a book like that, that's kind of based in this sort of semi-reality. Like, you know, professional wrestling is its own sort of fiction.
Hmm.
Um,
We definitely play into that, all the tropes of wrestling, and there's
right.
heel turns, and which is like a good guy turning into a bad guy or a bad guy turning good. So we definitely lean into all those things.
Well, that was what I was going to ask is do you did you go in with this whole kind of concept of this is a good guy and then here's where they're going to make their heel turn and then here's where they're going to turn face again,
Hmm.
or did the story kind of dictate who turned into a good guy and who turned into a bad guy? What came
Yeah,
first?
without spoiling too much, one of the characters for sure we knew right away, is going to be based around like certain choices they make, and then another character, as the story was going, and the rewrites were happening, we were like, maybe we don't have to come right out and say which way they're going to go. There can be gray areas, and then the reader can kind of read into it, and hopefully that almost makes you start to root one way or the other for that character, what they're going to do, where they're going, why do they act like this type of thing. So yeah, a little bit of both. I know it's not a good answer, but it's the truth. Like we started with an idea of definitely certain characters. We kind of knew where we wanted to take them from the beginning, and then other characters. I'll give you like the Red Reaper, for example. After we finished the book, he he became one of our favorite characters for different reasons. So, yep.
So, I know that Agents of Slam have been around for a while. I know that Cthulhu Jr. have been around for a while.
Hmm.
Because of that time, is there work that's done that, like, have you started working on a volume 2 even before volume 1? Has it a chance to see the light of day, or are you kind of putting these characters on hold?
No, we definitely have ideas for volume 2, but Dave and I are both working on other things also, but we've just recently been talking about like revisiting this rough outline we had for potential volume 2. So definitely when we are writing volume 1, we kind of put the characters in certain places where it's going to be really fun to jump back in and write them again, because the hardest volume is always the first one because you have to establish everything.
Right.
Now the characters, they're almost like writing themselves in our head, for the second volume. Like we'll each say an idea, and then the other person will say like, oh yeah, and then Bruno would do this, or the Red Reaper might say this, and we're on the same page now. It's not trying to figure out like the footing of what these characters would do. You already kind of know. So yes and no, we do have ideas, but Dave's been working on Mayor Goodboy, his other book series with Miranda Harmon that he's got out, and then I've been working with Franco on a couple things that pitches in a book that will come out, I think, later this year, from one of the big two publishers. So that'll be exciting, but I can't really talk about it yet because it hasn't been announced. But I worked on something, with Franco in that time period. So we kind of worked on Slam. We worked on Wrapped Up, went right into Slam, and then we kind of worked on other things. But we're coming back. Dave and I are coming back together. Lately, we have some other original ideas too, and things like that. So there will definitely be more Dave and Scoop books, and hopefully a volume 2 of Slam. But we haven't announced it yet. So
Mutual friend and all around good egg, Leah Letterman is here.
hey,
Can
Leah,
we
how are you?
show that art of the trick or treat scene again?
Yeah.
So, we're playing Find the People We Know, Leah. In the trick or treat scene here. Does anyone in this scene look familiar to you? That's very funny. I love this. I love the idea of being able to flip through a book, be like, I know that person and that person and that
Yeah.
person and that person.
Yeah, there's not there's so the trick with Junior is I definitely do that, and Dirk does it too, but we don't overdo it. So I'm kind of spoiling you guys with like one of the best pages in the book as far as like Easter eggs and little things like that. But there's other mutual friends that you will recognize when you get this book. And there's some cool, just original characters we've created at the kids' school, Eagle Point Elementary School, that you'll see just sitting there that just look kind of cool and unique. So hopefully it'll have like when they're at their school, like almost like a Charlie Brown vibe or something, you know?
So I have a question, and I kind of asked Dirk this the other day, but I think you'll probably be able to answer it better than him. Dirk's writing is not for children.
Yeah, it is.
But you come from that more all ages world.
Mm-hmm.
So when y'all were collaborating on Cthulhu Jr., what were some of the challenges? And I know you probably had to keep steering him back into, hey man, this may be a little too far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not
what
necessarily. Like Dirk, he got it right away. Like he never went too far. The only thing he did a good job of like adjusting was the first issue. There's like a lot of pages that are really wordy. So like Dastardly Dirk is talking and it's like word balloons are taking up like big chunks of the page, you know? And to him, this isn't a lot of text, but I know a lot of the kids that read my books, when they see that text, it's just kind of like a turn off, you know? You got to ease them into it a little bit, but the content is all great. Like I never had he got it right away. Like I never told him like, you know, that's not appropriate or whatever. It was just like, you don't want to overdo it with the dialogue, because with these cartoony stories, I can really do a lot more with the expressions. So then by the end, there's some really funny scenes with no dialogue on the page, with just their facial expressions looking at each other, which he wrote into the script. But, you know, I get to have fun actually like conveying that on the page, you know. Sometimes, you know, especially with these books, like less is more when it comes to that stuff. So
right. I'm sure that was part of it. That's how it works. Ship. If you dangle ice cream, and then Leah as an editor.
Yeah, she did.
Chop it,
Leah,
chop it
yes, Leah chopped a lot of it.
And that's right. Leah edited this book, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Yep. Let's see.
So Leah, in the comments, do you want to tell any embarrassing stories about how Dirk's not a great writer? I'm kidding. Just because I can, and I know he's here, and I gave him a hard enough time the other day. So let's go back to Agents of Slam, because this is one of the books that I've maybe been most excited for, and I've been like, look, my dude Scoot has this book coming that you're gonna want to read, like, to every wrestling fan I know.
Yeah, and so yeah, definitely wrestling fans will get it. They'll get all the inside jokes. They'll get all the you know, the wrestling tropes, the good guy turning bad, the bad guy turning good, face heel turns, whatever. It's funny because our editors on the book, Grace and Andrea, to start, they neither of them are wrestling fans, but they love the story and they love the book. So I'd put stuff in there like, you know, she's gonna suplex him, and they'd be like, well, maybe don't say suplex because a non-wrestling fan might not know. And I was like, well, but we're gonna show it, like physically show it. So we'll say like suplex, then I'll draw the move. So if they don't know it, they'll get it. And they were like, oh yeah, like so. As non-wrestling fans, they started to learn about wrestling just by reading the book and the different iterations. So I think that's a testimonial to, like, you know, a good funny action story is like, you don't have to know the material like so closely that you'll be like feel left out. But if you are a wrestling fan, same with Cthulhu Jr., if you're a fan of that genre, you're going to get all the Easter eggs. And that's true with this book. Like, we play into all you can see the guy back there with the chair. He's got a steel chair up here. And certain characters have powers, like the Undertaker, you know, he can bring down lightning and turn the lights off. So we play that aspect up a little bit. Like, all that kind of stuff is in there, but we don't copy anything. It's all original characters. It's just like, it's super fun to create this world and these characters and then go back in and play with them, because it's like we have our own wrestling organization now. You know, there's WWE, AEW, Impact, and now Slam, which is an acronym. and which is a plot point. So I won't give it away because some people have asked, what does the SLAM stand for? And that's a part of the book that, I don't want to reveal because it's worth it to kind of see that unfold in the story.
So when you're taking these already over the top characters who are pro wrestlers
Mm-hmm.
and you're putting them in even further over the top situations like fighting aliens,
Yeah.
As an artist, and especially with your style,
Mm-hmm.
how much fun was that? Like,
Yeah, that was super fun. So we pitch the book, differently depending on who our audience is. So if we know we're talking to like a librarian that's like a non-wrestling fan, we'll say, this is a story about a little girl that gets immersed in this world of pro wrestling and superheroes, and she encounters a mummy wrestler, alien wrestlers, monsters, zombies. It's basically got a little bit of everything in it. Then they go to different locations too, so that's what was awesome. Like they have a secret underground like high-tech base like the X-Men, but it's under the White House because remember they work for the president, and they have a jet like the X-Men. And then there's a battle in New York City, there's a battle on a tropical island, there's a battle on the moon. So it goes all over the place. We expand, we show the whole world, the whole universe in this first volume. So it was super fun to just draw all that crazy wacky stuff and really give it a core. Like it's a silly, crazy, ridiculous book, but it also has heart, and there's like a good message at the end that if I reveal it now, it will spoil the
sure.
major plot point of the book. But
So one of the things that I wanted to ask though about this is because you do have this very animated style, and we've talked hundreds of times about your influences in Batman the animated series and
mm-hmm.
a lot of the cartoons that we all grew up on. Because you get to draw these crazy situations, like are you finally getting to scratch any like itches that you've had for a while? Like you're finally getting to draw. I don't know. Have you done a book before with aliens?
I'm sure I have, but nothing recently. I mean, I don't even think
Right.
aliens show up in Wrapped Up. And that's another book where a lot of crazy stuff happens. So
Right.
no, I don't think. And that's funny because like I've always been like when I was a little kid, I was like always into that mythos, like of like how cool it would be if like aliens were real and all that stuff. So it's definitely like things I was into as a kid: superheroes, aliens, and like Halloween stuff. And I'm getting to scratch a lot of those itches, yeah, with these books. Like Milo as a mummy, and then Wrapped Up, obviously, Cthulhu takes place at Halloween. So, but yeah, that's a good point. Like I got to draw cool, like, and the aliens, without spoiling too much again, they're not just regular aliens. They're pro wrestler aliens, brah, and they look like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and different like alien versions of them. So that's what's kind of fun about them.
That's awesome. And so is there, if you could pick one thing
Mm-hmm.
that you've not gotten to draw yet, like professionally, and put it into a book, be it aliens, be it a kind of ghost, be it a horror character, be it a Halloween, whatever, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. It probably would be something to do with like a little kid alien adventure or something like that, something like there's something magical and unknown and scary but also fun about a story like that, if that makes sense.
Sure, absolutely. Okay. Going a completely different direction.
Mm-hmm.
Your son and I bonded over our, at the time, love of trucks.
Yeah.
I still love trucks. He's moved on to trains.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I've seen you post online is his drawing of trains. And for a young person he's how old is he? He's what, 5?
6 now.
6?
Yeah, he just turned 6.
He's really good.
Yeah, and he draws like it was funny because I would try to get him to draw all the time, and I would joke like he's doing his mandatory 2 hours of drawing every night. But the truth is he wasn't really that into it until probably I would say like this past year. He's always liked drawing, but now it's just like he's got this like reminds me of myself when I was little, because he's got like this like this itch he has to scratch in his head. Like he's got this vision of a train. He wants to draw it like right now. And he's getting so into trains that he knows all about like the crankshaft and the pistons and all these different parts of the train that the average person doesn't know. But he just, because he's into it, he absorbs everything about it. And then he's able to draw all that stuff, which is pretty cool to see. So I'm sure there'll be a train book in my future, but maybe Oliver will draw it.
Co-written.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is this, is like, he understands perspective and scale, these kind of things that most kids don't get. So how much of that is you working with him, and how much of that is just him? Like, how much of that is genetics? That's what I want to know. Can I blame the fact that I can't draw on my parents?
I think a lot of it is him observing me, because when he was, a little bit younger, he would ask me like, can you draw this train? And he would watch how I drew it in perspective, and then he would try to copy the trains I was drawing. So it's less about me trying to show him directly. It's more about like me drawing and him observing me, because it's hard to sometimes, coach up a 6-year-old and tell them how to do something, because he already knows how to do it. That's what he'll tell me. But I can always tell when I'm drawing something, he's looking at it, he'll tell me like, wow, that's really good. Like he doesn't, it's almost like he's surprised, like that I knew how to draw a train,
Right.
He's like, wow, that's pretty good. Good job. Oh, thank you.
So, we're gonna come back around on some things here in just a second, but before we do that, Will asked a while ago, what was your Instagram? But where can people follow you on the socials? Where can they support you? Website, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so at Scoot Comics is my Twitter handle and my Instagram handle right there. And then scootcomics.com is my website. But if you follow me on Twitter and Instagram, that's where I post most of my artwork. I am on Facebook, but the stuff I post on Facebook is usually stuff that I already posted in Twitter and Instagram. So I would encourage you to follow me on those platforms more, because that's where like almost like exclusively I post my artwork and occasional train from Oliver. So
So I just went through this process where I framed up the thousands of pieces of art I've collected over my career in comics.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two people who are far and away I have the most art. It's Scoot McMahon and Seth the Moose.
Mm-hmm.
I have probably hanging already 10 pieces of Scoot art.
A lot of them are comic book covers, right?
I've got comic book covers. I've got jam pieces. I've got stuff that literally was just us sitting in my booth at like the farmer's market, and you were doodling, and you're like, just to give these to kids. And I never had an opportunity to give them to kids. And so they're just here. And I'm like, well, they're so cool. I'm going to hang them up so kids can see them when they come into the studio,
Yeah.
And we're starting to get some of those, younger podcasters in. So that's super cool.
That is cool.
But like hundreds of pieces of art. And so my question is, when do you take commissions from people, and can they commission you through social media or your website?
Yeah, so the best way to do it is reach out to me on you can reach out to me through my website or either social medias, but I don't consistently take commissions, only because if I'm really, really busy with comic work, but I will let you know, like when I free up. Like someone wanted a commission a few months ago and I was too busy. So I told them, hit me back up in January, and then maybe I'll have time. So if you're patient, I will do commissions. Yes, up to a certain limit, but we can discuss that. But also the best place to get commissions from me, if you're able to, is at conventions, because I'll just do commissions, all weekend long, any convention. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be going to Fantasticon this year, but so I don't really know when my next convention will be, but I would like to attend hopefully C2E2 in August, I think it is this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure I'll be doing a free comic book day in May somewhere, whether it's somewhere here in Toledo or, one of the All Yeah Comics stores. So,
all right, I'm going to show everybody a piece of art
Okay.
that's hanging here that I think everyone will appreciate at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, there he is.
I'm trying to get the glare out, but
Oh, there's Peapod,
me and
our friend
Peapod,
Peapod, who may or may not
me and
also
my
be.
co-pilot Peapod. Yeah,
He may also have a appearance in the Cthulhu Junior book, but I will not reveal that today.
but it's Peapod saying, "I told you he's real," and me saying it's all Dirk's fault, which is an actual conversation we actually have. So, but that hangs right next to my desk. And included with that are actually a couple of other sketches of me, but not by Scoot. So I only want to show the Scoot piece. Well, they're both friends of yours, ironically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So let's wrap up with some fun questions, shall we?
Wrapped up.
Well, is there going to be more wrapped up at some point?
So that's another thing Dave and I have been talking with Oni about, but I can't confirm that yet, but we definitely would like to do more, possibly. So I will let you guys know on my Twitter and Instagram at Scoot Comics if and when that happens. But we definitely have more stories to tell with those characters. So hopefully, when the timing's right, we will be able to do more of those. But as of right now, there's nothing that I can confirm. So,
all right. So if you could take, and you've done a lot of really cool. You've got Sammy the Samurai Squirrel behind you. You had Spot from Spot on Adventure. You have, all the characters from right. There you go. You have all the characters from Wrapped Up, all the characters from Ages of Slam, everybody from Cthulhu Junior. If you could cross over two characters and make a buddy cop book, who would it be?
Let's see. Well, I think those two characters you see behind me. So Katie Jones from Agents of Slam in the pink shirt there, the vlogger. She's got millions of subscribers on her wrestling vlog. And then Sammy the Samurai Squirrel, who is the straight, serious character in her own book. Like everyone else is kind of goofy and silly, and Sammy is the serious one. And I think those two together would get in a lot of trouble, but also have a good time.
I like that a lot, actually. Sammy, I just gave my personal copies of Sammy to my 18-month-old nephew.
Nice.
So I'll probably never get him back.
That's okay.
But
I would rather you do that than you just have them on a shelf where no one reads them. So
well, yeah, they're on a shelf where I read them, but he's the point where he knows Squirrel.
Yeah.
So
cool.
We read Sammy together.
Nice.
What is it? How does it feel to be someone who has put out books that somebody like me can take to the next generation of comic readers and be like, look, this is what I want you to like, this is some good stuff. This is,
it feels good.
Does that feel like responsibility?
Yeah, no, it just feels good. It's cool because when I'm working on the books, I'm trying to work on stuff that I think, a 7-year-old or whatever Scoot would like. Not even necessarily trying to write them for Oliver. I'm trying to, who's 6. I'm just trying to write stuff that I would have thought would have been cool as a kid. And it is cool when, kids can experience these characters, and to them, Sammy is no different than Mickey Mouse. They're on the same. It's a character that exists in a world, and just like Mickey does. So that's what's kind of cool. And I think Art Baltazar was the first person that kind of like told me that with like his characters. Like it's cool to create your own characters and then have a kid become a fan, because to a kid, they don't know that this is, a limited series published by a small publisher. To them, this is like the same as picking up Captain Underpants or something like that,
right? I keep trying to explain to an 18-month-old that, you know, Uncle Kyle's friends make the coolest stuff. Mickey Mouse is cool, but like not nearly as cool as what Uncle Kyle's friends make.
Well, thank you. That's good.
He doesn't understand that yet, but we're getting there.
He probably, hopefully he will one day, but
right. All right. Last question, because we're running out of time. You're stuck on a desert island with the professor and Marianne, and we don't know how long it's going to take for the Globetrotters to come and find you. You have one book, one movie, and one record. What are you taking with you to the desert island?
Wow. Oh man. One book, one movie, and one record.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my favorite. Well, I don't know. This is tough because I've been watching a lot of Disney cartoons again from my youth because Oliver's into Disney. So I'm like getting reacquainted with movies like Pinocchio and those type of movies again, which I forgot how much I loved, you know, when I was little. Because I would have said something like, you know, a movie I've seen like as an adult, but I would have to say Pinocchio would be my movie. I love Pinocchio. The other thing, a book.
It can be a comic book, like
that's what I'm thinking. It's gonna be a comic book. I'm just trying to think of which comic book. Because I have so many favorites. Let's see. I would take Batman: The Long Halloween. That's probably my favorite. Like, I've read that book so many times, especially like I read it when it came out, and then I read it like when it was collected, everything like that. And then what was it? An album. Probably the Beatles' White Album.
Nice. A lot of people pick the Beatles. It's a good choice.
It's a good feel-good music, you know.
Absolutely. So, remind everybody at Scoot Comics, scootcomics.com to follow you and support you. Dirk had mentioned that Cthulhu Jr. will be on Kickstarter in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I don't know the exact date for that.
I don't think one has been set.
Yeah, later this year. Yeah.
And then Agents of Slam comes out from Oni Press April
20th. Yeah.
April 20th. So, thank you, Scoot, for being here. Thank you for doing this. For being a part of this. And seriously, when I get the rest of this art hung, you're gonna have to come over and just be like, seriously, man, what are you, some kind of stalker?
I'd love to. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you very soon.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here as part of the EXP Expo 2022, the one with all the twos. Tune in tomorrow. We will have Nicole Fernandez and Jen King here on the EXP Expo 2022 tomorrow. So tune in for that, and we will see you then.